You know the names, right? Snow White, Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel. We've all grown up with them. But the fairy tales that the brothers Grimm actually collected, well, there's so much more than the sanitized bedtime stories we remember. They are way darker, a lot stranger, and honestly far more complex. So let's pull back that curtain and really uncover what's going on between the pages of these iconic stories. It's a good question, isn't it? When we say a story is grim, what do we really mean? I mean, that word has become shorthand for something dark, something primal, maybe even a little terrifying. And you know what? There's a really good reason for that. If you want to understand what grim really means, just look at this. Here we have a young woman literally cast out of heaven, her voice stolen, left to suffer all alone, and her crime? She told a lie. See, in the world of the Grimms, the consequences are always severe, and the path to redemption, it's often incredibly brutal. To get why these stories are so brutal, you have to understand what the Grimms were originally trying to do. This was never just about entertainment. For Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, this was a massive project of cultural and even scientific preservation. This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of it. It wasn't just a delightful storybook, it was a collection of invaluable material for people to study. The brothers were scholars, they were linguists, they were folklorists, and they saw these old oral tales as cultural data points, a way to map the German soul. They were basically pioneers in a field that we now call comparative mythology. By collecting and sorting all these stories, they were trying to map the very DNA of German folklore, and really to understand the roots of human storytelling itself. And you can totally see that scholarly, almost scientific approach in the characters. The moral universe in these tales is, well, it's stark. It's totally unforgiving. Actions have direct and often wildly disproportionate consequences. There is very, very little gray area. This is a perfect example. On one hand, you have the purely good characters, like Snow White, whose only real flaw is that she's just a little too innocent. And on the other hand, you've got these deeply flawed heroes, like the princess from King Thrushbeard, who's just arrogant and cruel. But here's the key. Neither one is spared from suffering. Both of them have to be tested, broken down, to earn their happy ending. And the punishments can be extreme. Let's take the story Our Lady's Child. A simple rule, right? Don't open the door. She does, and she lies about it, but the consequence? Oh, she's thrown out of heaven. She's made mute. And when she finally builds a new life and has kids, they're taken from her one by one, year after year, until she finally confesses that original sin. It's a terrifying lesson in the weight of a single lie.
And you know, these lessons are not lost on the characters. They're often forced into these moments of really harsh self-realization. Here, the once proud princess who's now a beggar, she explicitly curses her own pride for bringing her down. Yeah, the moral of the story is never subtle.
Okay, so beyond the morality, you have the magic. And just like the moral code, the magic in these tales follows a set of very specific and often very, very strange rules. There's this peculiar logic to how it all works. So, let's say you find yourself enchanted, maybe transformed into an animal, or put into a 100-year nap. How do you get out of it? Well, as you can probably guess by now, the answer is rarely simple or predictable. Sometimes a kiss will do it. Classic. But other times, you might have to throw a frog against a wall with all your strength. Seriously. Or maybe you need to stay totally silent for 6 years while sewing some impossible shirts. And for Snow White, it wasn't even the kiss that saved her. It was a clumsy servant stumbling, which just happened to knock the poisoned apple out of her throat. Each curse has its own unique and highly specific key. This iconic image of Snow White in her glass coffin, it captures this idea perfectly. She's not dead, she's just suspended by magic, waiting. The dwarves can't break the spell. All they can do is preserve the scene, waiting for that one specific, almost random event that will finally fulfill the rules of the enchantment. So we've had dark morals, we've had strange magic, but sometimes the stories just get downright bizarre. You've got to remember, these tales came from oral traditions, and they have all the surreal, dreamlike logic of a story that's been twisted and changed around a campfire for generations. We all think we know the story of the big bad wolf, but the original tale of the wolf and the 7 little goats, oh, it goes to a place you probably do not remember from your childhood picture books. Because after the wolf swallows 6 of the 7 kids whole and falls asleep, the mother goat doesn't just sit there and mourn. No, she performs impromptu surgery with a pair of scissors, rescues her kids, fills the wolf's stomach with heavy stones, and then sews him right back up. When he goes to get a drink from a well, he falls in and drowns. It is a moment of absolutely grotesque, but somehow triumphant, strangeness.
And that is just a taste. You'll find a proud rooster and hen forcing a duck to be their chauffeur, a princess who has daily chats with the severed head of her horse, and a group of so-called brave men who are terrified by a sleeping rabbit. The sheer imaginative weirdness in these stories really knows no bounds. So, why do we keep coming back to these stories 200 years later? I mean, why do they still have such a powerful hold on our imagination? I think it's because they tap into something really fundamental about us.
It all comes back to this one central idea. The Grimms weren't just writing stories, they were decoding our shared cultural DNA. They showed us that these tales are blueprints for our fears, for our hopes, for our ideas of justice, and our belief in transformation. They are a direct line to the collective mind of our ancestors.
And that brings us to a final thought. Just look at the stories we tell today, in movies, in books, in video games. Think about the unforgiving consequences, the flawed heroes on these brutal journeys, the strange rules of their worlds. How many of them are still, secretly, following the ancient and very grim rules of the fairy tale?